As a single professional, I had debt and no savings after my divorce. I always wonder how I can start investing in real estate to secure my future. I studied programs that gave me all the benefits of investing in real estate. Some claim I could start with no money, but I could not find one that gave me the practical, actionable steps I needed. As a wealth advisor, I've met people that own real estate but weren't ahead financially. They were rich, but they weren't wealthy. Then I finally realized that there was one vital component missing that makes someone become wealthy or not. And on this show, I will reveal what I found and give you the step-by-step actions to start investing in real estate and increase your wealth. My name is Araceli. Let's get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Araceli, a transitional wealth advisor and a real estate investor in the US and Canada. And today I have two fantastic guests actually that I met in Cleveland. As you know, I invest in Ohio, specifically in the Cleveland area. And I met Tim and Chris a few years back, and they have some exciting news. And today they're going to share with us how do they work with investors, because remember, having the right realtor in your team is very important. And Tim and Chris, they're not only realtors, but they are also real estate investors. Both of them work for Russell Real Estate in Ohio. And if you can tell us who wants to get started. Chris, do you want to tell us how you are now working with investors? Tell me all the new tricks and tips.
Yeah. So we've just been changing because the market's been drying up itself, as I'm sure it has everywhere else. But Cleveland historically lags a little bit behind the rest of, the country and other markets. So we've definitely seen, under 30 days and 10 days of inventory left in markets, which has created a lot of difficulty. So we're going more direct to sellers is kind of our approach. And it's funny because people on our team actually just got back from knocking doors in neighborhoods actually in Cleveland because we're having such difficulty acquiring, right? So for investors specifically, though, we're doing a lot of direct mailers. And there's also a system I signed up for yesterday, which if we talk again, I can talk more about because I don't have any data to say whether it works or not. But our main goal right now is direct marketing campaigns of mailers and phone call follow-up to specific areas. And we're just using what a guy calls his algorithm for who to mail. So if they've had a trust over X amount of years, or they've owned the property over X amount of years, and then there's a certain debt in different markets that they choose, right? So if they have too much debt to what would make sense to sell, then there's no point, wasting the marketing campaign money towards them. So we do stuff to knock certain mailers out to try to save money, but at the end of the day, from what I know, it just all becomes the follow-up from the people that you hear back from.
Wow. So tell me, when I was coming to Cleveland, I bought a lot of the properties at auction. And I saw in drying up pretty much at the end of 2018, 2019, there were very little inventory. So is the auction still going? How has changed since I was there?
Yeah, so the auction's still going, but for a little bit they were doing it virtually, and now they're allowing both, which was never really allowed until 2020 in Cleveland. So they're allowing banks to bid virtually on these properties, which is, not it gives them another advantage that we don't want banks to have, essentially. So it has created a greater difficulty, and that's why we've pivoted to more direct to see if we can get to these people before they're at the point of the auction as well, because we're needing to circumvent a lot of the stuff that we were able to rely on previously. And Tim and I have helped plenty of people purchase out of auction before, and it's just not as much of a reality as it used to be. So yeah, with technology and the pandemic, it's definitely created a lot of difficulty and more competition for people who we would say might be too lazy to drive down to the auction, or it was too much for them, because schedules do conflict. They may have the motivation, but they have something else to do, so they can't go there. Now people can just click a button on their computer. So it creates more competition and value for you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Araceli, hi, how you doing? I'm gonna step in for a second. So like what Chris said, another thing is too, you gotta remember, the banks are now working with more individuals than they ever were. So years ago, it was like, okay, you're late on your payment, you're gone, you're foreclosed on. And then after 2008, after the short sale market and all that changed, government kind of got involved and put a chokehold on the banks and said, you're gonna work with these people regardless. And so that has kind of now carried over for the last 7 to 10 years. So as Chris said, there's not as many auction properties because of the pandemic, due to COVID, you used to get about 6 to 9 months before a bank would now it's probably 12 to 18 months before they even file. And then it's another 6 to 2. I mean, you're essentially in your home for over 2 years, not making mortgage payments.
Wow.
And they have a lot of these different options. So not only, like Chris said, auctions used to be great. I know when you used to come into town and you would do that. But now, like Chris said, you can roll right out of bed, sitting in your shorts, and you can be bidding online. Whereas before, you had to get dressed, you had to get showered up and go downtown and, go through the elements or whatnot. Chris got lucky. He went during a snowstorm, essentially, and there was only 4 or 5 people there. So he had nobody there. Today, like he said, the banks can just bid online. They don't even need to come to the court.
Yeah.
So auctions are a little bit harder, but I'll flip it back over here to Chris for your next question.
Okay, so I actually wanted to ask you guys, when was the first time that you started investing? Were you a realtor already, or were you just a regular person and then you became a realtor? Which became first, being a real estate investor or being a realtor?
For me, it was being a realtor. I think it's the same for Tim, but I'm not sure. I think he might have started before he got into real estate. So, but yeah, for me personally, it was in 2015. I would have been helping other people from 2013 to 2015 because I was running a lot of leads for a HUD agent in the state of Ohio. And that's kind of what introduced me to it. So I now remember Tim's story, so I'm going to pass it to Tim and let him say it.
So in 2001 and 2 and 3, I joined it with a team and we became real estate investors. I didn't get my real estate license until 2007, but I was a victim of predatory lending. So we were being fleeced by an investor who was selling us sham properties. They were doing sham work, and it was a long, long story, not to get into it, but we were victims of predatory lending. Thankfully, that investor did end up going to prison.
Wow.
But because of that made me want to be a realtor to help others to make sure they didn't get the wool pulled over their eyes like I did. So I actually invested then. I became a realtor in 2007. And then when I met this fine gentleman next to me, him and I, we started working together, formed the team. He started doing a couple investment properties himself, and now we do them together. So now we actually work together with some properties. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
That makes sense.
So now, you guys now, in the current conditions, what would you recommend for an investor, doing a flip or doing a buy and hold in the Ohio area?
I'll pass it back to Chris, and then he'll probably send it back over to me.
All right.
To me, I think it's both. I don't think there's ever a bad time per se to get a rental. And with like the current economic situation in America, not just Cleveland, I guess I could quote that this is not financial advice on top of it, but at the end of the day, it's my personal opinion that inflation's going to affect the entire United States. I think the 7% is a push down number, so we don't see the reality of what it is. And I definitely believe that's going to affect the pricing across the country, and it helps a lot of people's purchasing power. And even if rates do take the 4x hike that they think that it's going to take by June or July that they say they're going to implement, I don't really think it's going to stop too much purchasing, especially at like the lower end of the market. And just to me, you're going to get an appreciation value on your property. So to whatever you're choosing to do, I think you're going to win either way. I don't see, like, a lot of people fear a crash like in '08 or this or that, like past cycles. And I honestly think it's kind of the opposite, because if we're getting to like a peak cycle, we haven't even hit fully where numbers were in 2008. So what people were underwater then, now we're finally at those numbers, and you start to think like, that means our pricing right now is somewhere where it was between 2001 and 2008. So if you look at any commodity over the last 20 years, outside of how the gas fluctuation works, there's nothing you can buy for the same dollar from 2001 that you can today, outside of, I'm trying to think of anything, like outside of our housing cycle. So it might be different in some other places like Miami and California, but definitely like Midwest markets are only back to where they were of the quote unquote bubble of '08. And that's just, there's too many people buying at good interest rates for, I think, that value to work its way backwards, because people's payments are so much less with those interest rates that it's good, and money is so much more printed and pushed out across the country, that the affordability is there. And with the pandemic, people are able to put these on the backside of their loans. So as long as they make the payment after a year or 2 years, there's not going to be a foreclosure process on them, because they're holding back.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that changed recently. And before the 2008 crash, especially in the US, that's why Canadians were kind of drawn to come to the US, because there were so many properties that were on their value. If you know the process here in Canada, we're not allowed to sell a house for the taxes only. And even if they offer it for the taxes, you're supposed to buy it at a fair market value. And so it makes it very, very difficult for us to find a deal just like they are in Cleveland, right? Like when I bought, I could buy like maybe I actually bought a house and 45 cents on the dollar, 50 cents, 75 cents on the dollar, which it gave me enough room for me to do a repair and then sell it for a profit. But here in Canada, we're basically not allowed to do that by law. So
I had no idea.
It makes it very difficult, right? That's why it's so appealing for us to come to the US, because you have a very different laws. But I think it's changing since 2008, and I don't think that a crash, when the pandemic started, I thought, oh my God, our houses are going to go down. We still have houses that are, in the midst of being renovated. I says, oh my goodness, like what is going to happen? But the opposite happened. And the opposite happened here in Canada as well. Like houses went so crazy high. We have now anything like the inventory, at least in the area that I'm in, is so small that some houses get up to 20, sometimes 30 offers. It's so crazy. Some of them are going actually for over 100,000.
I'm going to pop in here. It's funny you say that. We're in the same situation as well. Chris and I just listed a colonial in a very nice affluent suburb of Cleveland, a western suburb, and within the first 3 or 4 days, we had 15 offers, well over asking. All offers were over asking. So I think what we're seeing here, what we're experiencing, happening in your neighborhood, happening here in Cleveland, we have friends all across the country. There is just a lack of inventory. When it comes to investing, It's the same thing. You can't go on the multiple listing service anymore and pull a property off there. If you can, you're a magician, somehow.
Yeah.
Chris has a lot of contacts, off-market contacts that reach out to him with off-market properties, wholesale properties and different deals like that. And what Chris will touch on a little bit more that he was talking about earlier is we have now started to invest a good portion of our funds into these direct contact campaigns, whether they be mail, whether they be phone call, or whatever it is. And just as he told you about some of the agents on our team were doing door knocking, what they're doing is you sell a house right here, you're going to knock all the doors in the neighborhood all around it. Hey, see that house down the street, 1234 Smith Avenue? Well, that was our listing. We sold it fairly quickly. Are you interested in buying or selling? Do you know anybody who is interested in buying and selling? So that's kind of our way. We're trying to think outside of that box. Here's the box and we're out here. And you got to be different if you're going to succeed in this particular in this market, in this time right now. So, but as Chris had mentioned, as you had mentioned, don't ever think we're ever going to see a 2008 market crash. I mean, that was scary. I got my license in 2007. So my first year in the business, I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It was like, oh boy, am I going to be able to make it? But God was good. And here I am 15 years next month, it'll be 15 years. So, but I'll put you back on with Chris for your next question.
Okay. So that is amazing, actually, the stories that you guys have. But for a last question, I would like to know, what is your approach when you are helping a real estate investor coming into the Cleveland area? Let's say that I'm just coming in, I don't know anything about it, I'm from out of state, even from Canada, right? How do you work with those people?
Yeah, so for me personally is like, I need to understand where you're coming from as an investor. So like for you to have at least some idea of like a game plan of what you're looking for is the first thing. And then second, for me, it's like I'm a numbers person, right? So if you're coming here and it doesn't matter, like a lot of people have different equations. Like the equation you use truly doesn't matter. It's the happy number of your return. So if it's a flip and you're like, I like to buy a house, doesn't matter what the purchase price is, it matters what the purchase price and the all-in value is.
Yeah.
So if I'm all into a house for 70, 75% or 80% and we sell that property, I'm happy. That gives me a very easy mode of what to go look for, right? So the all-in value is what I have the math to work for. So if you're all into the house for 75%, it's kind of the standardized number that I see across the industry. That makes it easy for me to find that. And then in the perspective of a rental, if some people are like, I need to make $300 more than the mortgage payment as cash return per month, and I'm happy, right? Or some people purchase cash and they're like, I need to make at least a 7% cash on cash return. So like just using the figure of what you're looking for not only helps me designate the areas of where that's possible, but it just helps narrow the search. So we're not just, it's always good to throw a wide net, but the wide net doesn't work if that area will never be able to fit the numbers of what you're looking for. So you're essentially just wasting time. So to me, it's, communicating, I need to know what makes you happy. And if I'm able to understand what you're looking for, then I'm able to find it. So it's like the happy median, like there's some people where you need to like explain the different math equations of money to, but it's easier if you have your own designated in your head, and then you can quickly learn reality. That's not possible here, so I either need to change what I'm looking for, or I need to find a separate market to be investing into. So yeah. I
think you got a really good point there, because this is one of the questions that a lot of people come to me for. Oh my goodness, I cannot invest. The numbers don't work in Canada. There's nothing that we can find in here. And my answer is always, if it doesn't work in your area for what you're looking for, you need to look in another market that actually works, right? Because otherwise you're not going to be happy ever.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly what you said, the same with me. I'm a numbers person. If it doesn't work on paper, I don't even go look at it. It just doesn't make any sense, right? And then you can go and see the areas and anything else. Does Tim have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, Chris hit everything. I mean, nothing I can think of additionally. I mean, it all depends on, way we look at it is what's the end goal for that investor? Where do they want to buy and hold? Do they want a bunch of rentals? Do they want to do some, buy and resell, rehab and resell? So it all just depends. We can find the properties. We have the contacts to do that. And with the direct mailers, there are sometimes an investor will come to us and say, hey, we're looking in this area, or offer your advice to us in some areas. And we can find them the properties. Like I said, we're doing a lot of direct calls and marketing right now, mailings, calls, different things like that. Boots on the ground too, Araceli, is a great thing. Realtors just aren't doing that. They're just not. Dare I say, a lot of realtors are lazy, and I get it. I've been there too, but they're just not getting out in the neighborhoods, and they're not, doing the type of things that our team, that our group is doing. So, but yeah, Chris hit it all on. He hit the nail on the head with everything he said.
So this is one of the things that I always tell people when they work. For example, here in Canada, at least in the GTA where I live, we have a ton of realtors. Like, I can't remember the number, but I think it's like 70,000 realtors in a very small area. So as you can see, it's very competitive, and some of them are doing it part-time, and they're not all equal. So as an investor, I always tell people, if you're looking for a realtor, make sure that realtor knows the market well for long enough, and is also a real estate investor, because a realtor that is not, is completely different, the interaction. What I'm looking for does not align with what you're looking for, because you're looking for a sale. You're not looking to help me get more money, right?
True. Very true. Absolutely.
And that
100%.
is why anytime that I am either interviewing a realtor or anybody, the first question that I ask is, are you investing in real estate yourself?
Fantastic. You hit, that's perfect. That's exactly right, because we're in it. We're doing that. We're living that. That's on top of helping buyers and sellers in just your traditional markets. That's what we're doing. We're investors ourselves. Chris does have a little bit more experience than I have. I did the investing before the crash. Chris has done it after that. So I saw the bad and he's seeing the good, and then together we see it. But yes, that's a great point. I mean, it's one thing when you get a realtor, and I'm not disparaging any realtor, but it's one thing when you get a realtor. It's another thing when you get a realtor who's a real estate investor like Chris and I.
Yeah, so, absolutely. It makes a huge difference. Okay, guys. Well, I really appreciate your time in just giving us a little bit of an overview of what's going on in Cleveland right now. I love to have you again for some more other chat with you. But tell me, if somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
So the easiest way is they could search our name, and it should, and you put Cleveland at the end, it should come up immediately. And also we have a pretty big, even though I hate Zillow, we have a pretty big Zillow presence as well. Yeah. So that would, I don't know if I'm,
they can reach out directly to Chris, or they can reach out directly to me.
Is there a phone number that you have?
Yes, I'll give you my cell phone number as well as Chris's. My cell phone number is area code 216-215-6589, and it's always right here, right next to me.
All right.
And Chris is 440-915-8257. And yes, for all your listeners out there, we are available. We are full-time agents. We do this Monday through Sunday. We're here in our office. We work morning hours, afternoon, evening. So we're both very, very hard workers. So, I mean, we'd love the opportunity to help any of your listeners, any of the people in your group. And
Yeah,
Araceli, we love
absolutely.
you. We love you. We think it's great what you're doing. This is
Oh,
fantastic. So it's great.
thank
It's
you
great
so
to
much.
catch back up with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is as you know, I'm creating right now a community for people that want to invest, not only in Canada, but in general. So I'm actually putting a course together as well that is aimed more
Fantastic.
at women than men, because most of the investors are usually men, and women are very scared of
Hmm.
investing in real estate, which is really, as long as you have all of the elements that you need, then you should be fine. It's like any other profession. I love it, and it gives you as well the opportunity to meet people just like Tim and Chris, that there's so many people around that are helpful, but it's just finding them, creating
Correct.
that team that you need in the area. And I have been very fortunate to be able to find the right people that always are willing to help. So absolutely, Tim, I really appreciate that, and I love to
Yes.
have you back for
We
another
could,
chat.
we would love to come back, and we have for an investor that's out of state or even out of the country, we have all the parts here. That includes contractors, that includes tradesmen, that includes roofers, property managers, drywallers. I mean, you name it. We've been doing this for quite some time, so we can help people that are out of state, because I mean we work with people. We work with people in different countries. We work with people in California, in Colorado. We work with people in Texas and Florida. Chris and I we love what we do. So yes, definitely. And thank you. We will definitely come back on. You just send us another invite and we'll be there for sure. I'll
Oh,
let you say goodbye to
absolutely.
Chris. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Well, thank you so much, Chris. You guys have given me so much insight, and of course for the listeners, because they want to hear from the people that are actually there, and boots on the ground, looking at what is happening right now. An update is always really good.
No, that's perfect. And we do have a pretty decent sized Facebook account and following. So we'll definitely push it out, and I look forward to seeing it. And we appreciate your time too, Araceli.
Okay, awesome. Well, see you later, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll
Bye.
talk to you soon. Bye, Chris.
Bye.